and there are dynamic similitude laws that we'll have to use to scale down the strength, stiffness, and other properties of the material also, which is not possible. And hence, internationally, whether it is Japan, US, or Europe, they have always resorted to full scale testing and not to scale model testing. So please keep the scale model testing away. Also, I want to clarify that just testing beam and column junctions alone is not going to clarify the system behavior. That is essential to understand local behavior, but system behavior will have to be done in a full scale, full prototype way. Now let me spend a little time on the new technologies. So the basic nature of our new technologies are that mostly they'll be modular type, except the 3D printing, and then they have standard sizes of components which are made in the factory, and they are joined through operations at site. So what are the advantages? Great scalability, speed of construction, and superior quality control. Perfect. But on the other side, the heavily weighing down items for us are that we do only structural analysis and we don't check the behavior of those structures. And then the design of joints, the dry joints, their behavior is unknown because it has not been quantified. The quality control of the joints depends on the skill of the workers. So where do we go? The route for us is that we need standards for design and safety assessment, which are not available in India right now. And we mostly rely on assumed behavior, and similar behavior with the counterparts of the in situ construction is what we are expecting, and we are assuming and going ahead. If you look at our Indian standard also, that is there with us, is saying the same thing. Now, the process of standardization requires full-scale testing at the top, then of the sub-assemblages to begin with, then the full system, and then repository of the test data. That means one test, two tests should not lead you to conclusions. You should look at similar tests done worldwide as also, collect all that data, and then prepare a draft standard, peer review the standard nationally, internationally, and then prepare a final standard and take it to the standards body for approval. Here is where the role of industry comes in as a center space. Technology creators and technology providers are the industry, and so it will be nice if they can come together and create an environment in which these activities, the 6 activities, can be held with objectivity. In fact, if the first 3 are done by the industry, the next 3 can be done by the Bureau of Indian Standards without any problem. Now, full-scale testing, as I said, was a mandatory issue for 2 reasons. One is nonlinearities, and second is dynamic effects. When you do earthquake behavior, when you see earthquake behavior, both geometric and material nonlinear effects come into picture. You have to accommodate those. Also, static loading versus dynamic loading. All of us know this, that dynamic loading will give us more effects. Bending moment, shear forces, deflections, rotations, all of that will be higher when we do dynamic actions. And that has to be quantified, and analytically we can make mistakes in the strength and stiffness modeling, and so we can get incorrect answers. And that is why dynamics is so crucial for us. Why does full-scale testing help us out? Because it accounts for the actual behavior, the way it will happen when shaking is provided. What are the candidate systems for full-scale testing? All structural systems have to go through this full-scale testing model, all of them. Especially the ones which are jointed systems like precast, pre-engineered, pre-stressed. These have to be definitely put through this test. Then we are looking at non-structural elements also to be tested. This safety, the success of a technology is not when just the structure is safe, but also the non-structural elements are safe, especially in today's context where it accounts for 60 to 90%, 70 to 90%, depending on the type of the building that we are looking at. If it's a hospital, it'll go to 90%. If it's a modest residential system, it'll go to 60% multi-story building, and others will fall in place in between. So we're looking at furniture, facades and services, and in services, piping, wiring, all of those will have to be examined as to how they will behave in the full-scale testing. The comparison of precast and cast-in-situ, it's important to make here because we will understand the rigor required for doing the full-scale testing. We have products manufactured here in the factory and they're process oriented and multiple units of the same are made. So the advantage is that they are simple and modular in nature. Often mass housing is where it is. Now when I look at mass housing excitement, I have one particular design approved and it will go to construction of 60,000 houses, 20,000 houses, 7,000 houses. So one mistake will get amplified so many times 5 number of people per each apartment or flat. And that is where my worry is that we will amplify our mistake too much if we cut corners or go by the shortcuts in this. So the concerns in the structural systems, when you look at precast structural systems, is that there is no continuity of the structural members. And then redundancy comes in a big way. If we have chosen the same open ground story type of systems for precast also, we will be in great danger because we don't have enough redundancy in them. And they're less rugged and they don't forgive our mistakes, this precast systems. And we have seen that in past earthquakes worldwide that 300 women who were stitching clothes for people in a precast 7-story building just collapsed. None of them could come out of it. The joints and connections they open and close during earthquake shaking, and this is not modeled analytically in any of the classical softwares that we have today. So the dead load compressive forces are overcome by the tensile overturning effects, and that is where our main worry is. And we are looking at verifying earthquake resistance is going to bring through experimental investigation this fact out very explicitly and clearly. So that middle story that we are seeing on the right hand side will tell us where are the joints opening up and what will be the nonlinear effects coming there. The structure also becomes softer when I mean that it gets damaged and then it loses strength and loses stiffness also. Even though concrete and steel stresses are within the elastic range, even if damage happens, you will see the softening happening. But if damage doesn't happen also, because of the opening and the sliding, the slip is actually going to make the structure become very soft. And that is not acceptable to us, that the structure will swing more than what the non-structural elements can take. So technology development depends on the various vendors. If a vendor says, look, I have done all the design and nonlinear analysis, please do testing only for me, then you do technology qualification in that case through full scale testing. If the vendor says, no, no, I have done only design, I have not done nonlinear analysis and testing, then we will say, well, we'll do technology certification. But if a fresh entrepreneur comes or some idea comes from somebody and says, please develop this technology, then we have to go through the whole route of design, nonlinear analysis, and full scale testing. So depending on the level at which the vendor is, depending on the background work that the vendor has done, we should be able to take on either qualification, certification, or development. Technology qualification, technology certification, or technology development. This is the route for us that we have to take when we interact with the various vendors. So what we learned is that technology development has two essentials. One is testing, evidence-based, and then standards, which are evidence and experience-based documents. Both of them are essential when you approve any technology, especially under the banner of CPWD or the governmental systems. It would be appropriate to put a front foot forward confidently, and your confidence will depend on whether we have done full-scale testing and whether we have the due standards for it. Just to give you a glimpse of what has been the international scenario for earthquake resistance of precast systems, there was a project in the decade of 1990 between US and Japan, and it's called the Precast Seismic Structural Systems. And they wanted to develop innovative seismic structural systems to formulate design and then to formulate design recommendations. So it's a 10-year effort, and they concluded very modestly that select systems alone can be taken forward. Similarly, in a 3-year period in the European Union, 16 partners came together from industry, then the professional associations and the university from 7 countries, and they did more than 100 cyclic and dynamic tests in various laboratories across the European Union, those 7 countries, and then the tests were on sub-assemblages and their joints especially, and they were focusing on floor to floor, floor to beam, beam to column, and column to foundation connections in a very, very precise way. They did a full-scale prototype of a 3-story structure and put it through pseudodynamic and classic cyclic tests. And they got a good understanding of the behavior of connections of precast structures. And so it enabled them to come up with a design for seismic actions. As you would see, you will start with 1,000 ideas. You will test, you will then do analysis and reduce that to 100 of them. And when you test, you'll test 10 of them. And when you recommend, you'll recommend 2 of them. This is the ratio in which technology is growing. All the 1,000 ideas will not become technologies. All the 10 tests, 10 technologies tested will not get approved. And so we have to be ready for that possibility also when we get into this route. So as you can see, you need good laboratories to be able to do such large models, full-scale 3-story building structures. And you can see that the structural walls are also precast and then brought in from outside. You can see on the right-hand side picture. So what's the story at the Indian front? We have an Indian standard, Code of Practice 15916 for building design and erection using prefabricated concrete. That's the one that we have in the Indian context. It says that precast structure should be analyzed as monolithic one. Now that's a tough statement that the Indian standard is making. If we were to revise this standard again, we should drop that sentence. We can't say that precast structures are monolithic structures. You can't. They can't be analyzed. Joints have to be modeled, and you will see lot more lateral deflection than what you will see in the normal context of monolithic structures. So this emulative behavior is not going to come at all when you look at it. You can go close to it, but you can never achieve it. So it'd be improper to use monolithic behavior as the basis for analysis. Second point is the resistance to horizontal shaking shall be provided by appropriate moment and shear joints or by placing structural walls. Well, we got lucky because they made that shear walls included in that. If that was not there, it would not be possible for us to make precast construction joints behave the same way as monolithic joints. Not so easy. Moment connections and shear connections. Shear, especially when there is a full cut crack through, how do you make shear connections? Only steel has to carry that entire shear. So the bar diameters will become much larger. And so this segment also requires a relook in the Indian standard. And the third statement it's making is components shall be designed in accordance with 875 parts 1 to 5 and 1893 part 1. Right? Now 1893 is placing the seismic demands on us, but is currently not giving you the seismic displacements. And that is where a little worry is. In the revision, we hope that we will be able to address seismic displacements also. Prefabricated buildings shall be designed for proper structural integrity to avoid damages where single elements can cause collapse. So we're talking about progressive collapse in this particular requirement, but structural integrity is something that some of the systems don't provide. And that is where the worry is that this current document here is insufficient for us to guarantee safety in the Indian context. So what India needs is to capture nonlinear behavior under earthquake loading of all the technologies that are being proposed by various organizations. We need to have a new standard for testing, and we need a loading protocol and a criteria for acceptable performance. And this is where the entire headache will be for governments, that when earthquake happens and there'll be a certain damage, people will say, you said no damage and this has happened. So we have to clarify a priori that damage is going to be admissible and certain type of damage only is admissible. This is the clarity that you must have from the beginning. in technologies in which damage is admitted. There will be technologies in which no damage is admitted. That will be a separate set altogether. So we have to write down loading protocols and acceptance criteria for these new technologies that we have. So as we are speaking, Professor Bharti and a team of colleagues in the Bureau of Indian Standards are in a working group which is developing the standard for seismic testing. We pray that this work can go forward, but it can go forward only if CPWD and the entire Indian industry comes together to build the necessary testing basis, which we said was the required one for going forward to make this standard come out in short period of time. I'll stop here by adding a few thoughts. One is that when you look at earthquake resistant design, there are four aspects that we are engaging in: analysis, behavior, construction, and design. When you analyze, it has to reflect behavior. So your computer programs have to have those features which the real structure has. For example, the dry joints in precast construction, they are not there in the current software. On the other side, when you design, you have to control the behavior. You have to make the damage happen in limited, specified, pre-agreed locations only. And then you have to analyze only that which can be designed and constructed, and not analyze something and design something. For example, bare frame is the analysis, but when you construct an infilled frame. No, those are not acceptable. All those elements that come in the path of load transfer have to be accounted for in the analysis also. And when you design also, be sensitive to the assumptions made, what is fixed, what is hinged, what is the partial restraint, all that has to be accommodated in design. So coming up with a new technology or approving a new technology will require a very careful nurturing and upbringing of the technology from its nascent idea stage to the final product and the standard stage. Just to clarify today, if you want to do full-scale testing in the country, there are two institutes where we have created facilities. One is MNIT Jaipur, another is IIT Kanpur, and they have capability to test three-story structures, full three-story structures. And if all the organizations which are interested in developing technologies come together, these two test facilities will get busy, but they might become insufficient. So in the long run, we are thinking of adding more such test facilities in the country. But interestingly, even though these facilities are available for long, especially IIT Kanpur, we did not see much of the organizations coming together and asking for full-scale testing to happen. And that is where I would say there needs to be a cooperative and collaborative effort of a detailed R&D between industry, academia, and government in the time to come. The expectations are rising in time ahead when you look at the way the government projects are coming out so fast and quick. We were doing intuitive design in the early days, and then we moved to prescriptive design, where from concepts we graduated to structural safety standards. And then we are looking at performance-based designs now. People are asking functional expectations. Owners are asking that I don't want damage, I don't want this much downtime, and so on. And then there's a risk-based design that is up on the horizon, which says life safety and retrofit expectations have to be limited, right? And then we're talking about resilience. I want to come back quickly after an earthquake and not lose too much time, right? And this is where we stand today. We are at the prescriptive design stage in the professional practice. And what we are talking about, the new steps, new technologies are going towards code exceeding designs. See, for example, wind will urgently require you to do performance-based design. Earthquake will require you to do risk-based design. And then if you're looking at other disasters like blast and others, you are looking at resilience-based design. So I would pray that in time ahead, we have to have a cadre of engineers who are actually looking ahead and closely working with these test facilities and industries to create the required design documents and standards for approving new technologies. I'm so happy that CPWD decided to take up this subject by the horn And I'm confident that in a couple of years from today, you will see major gains coming out of this entire effort. Uh, there is multifaceted design also in structural safety, and we are still in the modest early stages of ensuring levels 1, 2, and 3 and 4, and we are yet to get to 5, 6, and 7. So, what I'm saying is the industry and institutes all are in the growing stages and very steep learning curve stage. We have to work together to make all this happen. You will recognize that earthquake engineering is not just engineering, but it is art in engineering because it has to balance safety, functionality, durability, aesthetics, and economy. But this time around, if you want to approve new technologies for seismic applications, safety has to be on the driving seat and not economy or aesthetics. The top three are non-negotiable in that order. First, safety, then functionality, and then durability. The only compromises between aesthetics and economy, if you pay more money, aesthetics goes up. If you pay less money, economy goes up. Otherwise, the sequence is more or less frozen for us because you can't have a structure that is functionally acceptable but not safe. On the other hand, you can't have a structure that is functionally that is safe but not durable. And that is where those three are going to be sitting on the driving seat and the rest will have to follow suit. I'll stop here by thanking Shailin Sarma Saab for giving me an opportunity to share some thoughts, and also colleagues who made sure I'm here this morning, Diwakar Agarwal Saab as well as Pradeep Garg Saab, for bringing me here today and giving me an opportunity to listen to colleagues. I have spoken this morning, but I am keenly looking forward to listening to our colleagues, both from CPWD as well as from industry, and understand what their questions are, and hopefully we will find answers for as many of them as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time and attention, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. There is a break of 15 minutes. Please join us at 11:45.
So there is a break now.
Is there any question answer session is there?
Excuse me. Yes, sir. There is a question answer session at the ending of the workshop.
Okay, because I have some question with the Mr. Murthy regarding the testing that we
I
are.
think we can continue. I think we can continue with that right now because it will save time. Yeah, please go ahead. Ask your question.